the Appian Way, Rome's most prestigious avenue, 17 kilometers of marble and conquest monuments, 71 BC, dawn. Normally, you'd expect to see soldiers, merchants, the empire's waking rhythm. But no, there are crosses, exactly 6,000 of them. The first thing that arrives is the smell. Blood so fresh that morning dew hasn't washed it away yet. Then sound. Thousands of people taking shallow breaths, crows circling, waiting. A Roman merchant passes by them, adjusts his toga, doesn't even look up. A mother pulls her child to the side of the road, away from the corpses. Not from horror, for practicality. Children play at the base of the crosses, as if they were trees. Those hanging here aren't criminals, not traitors either, slaves, men who dared to dream of freedom, people who followed a gladiator named Spartacus and nearly brought Rome to its knees. This isn't an execution. Execution would be mercy. This is a show. 6,000 people dying slowly, deliberately, lined up on the empire's busiest road so everyone can see, so no one forgets. Stand against Rome, we don't just kill you. We turn your death into a monument to our power. But here's what should really disturb you. This wasn't even Rome's most brutal method of humiliation. Wouldn't make the top 10. What Rome did to individuals with precision, with planning, with legal justification. That's where the real terror lives. The civilization that gave us law, order, roads, aqueducts. The civilization supposedly laying the foundation of civilization itself. Also built the most sophisticated mechanism of social humiliation the ancient world had ever seen. And they documented it with pride, meticulously, just as engineers design bridges. In this story, you'll meet 3 people Rome decided to destroy. Not their bodies. That would be too fast. Their humanity, and you'll discover that the empire saw this not as cruelty, but as art. First, understand what Rome was. Not the Hollywood version, the truth. 50 million people under Roman control. 3 continents, from Britain to Mesopotamia. 400 amphitheaters built specifically for public spectacles. An empire sustained with relatively few legions. Without modern technology, without surveillance, without instant communication, how do you control 50 million people? Rome found an answer: psychological warfare. And they perfected it. They didn't just build roads and aqueducts. They built a system, legal frameworks defining who could be humiliated, how, and why. Economic incentives. Humiliation was profitable business. Vendors, performing artists, sponsors, all profited from social humiliation. 4 centuries of conditioning, Romans began to see this as entertainment, as civic duty, and they recorded everything. Legal texts, private letters, historical writings. Roman intellectuals debated it. Cicero argued that public humiliation created social bonds through collective witnessing. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, teacher of emperors, wrote analyses of why watching humiliation made citizens more obedient. They weren't ashamed. They took pride in this innovation. You've met 3 souls caught in Rome's machinery. Perpetua, a young mother who refused to renounce her faith. Vercingetorix, a warrior king who united Gaul against Caesar. Sejanus, Rome's most powerful man before everything collapsed one afternoon. 3 people. 3 different crimes in Rome's eyes, but one common fate: systematic, public, calculated humiliation, designed to break them so thoroughly that their destruction would echo for generations. What you're about to witness happened to real people whose names have survived 2,000 years. The suffering they endured was documented not as tragedy, but as political success. Carthage, North Africa, 203 AD. Vibia Perpetua, 22 years old. Married, nursing her newborn son, daughter of a wealthy Roman official. Everything to lose. In 203, she was Christian. This was treason. Not because of what Christians believed, but because they refused to perform a simple ritual: burning incense before the emperor's statue. 5 seconds. Acknowledging Roman authority. That's all. Perpetua was arrested with several Christians. For months, authorities offered her the same deal: Perform the ritual. Go home to your baby. Refuse, and face the arena. We know what happened in that prison because Perpetua wrote. Her diary survived, one of the earliest Christian literary works written by a woman. She describes her father's visit. He kissed her hands, called her daughter, then my lady, trying every form of pleading. He said, "Have mercy on my gray hair. Have mercy on your baby son who cannot live without you." And Perpetua writes, "I grieved for my father because he alone of my family would not rejoice at my martyrdom. Guards brought her baby to prison, let her nurse, then took him away, again and again. Every visit. Just perform the ritual. Keep your son forever. Every refusal. You're choosing death over your child. What kind of mother are you?" Roman sources describe their next steps. They didn't physically torture her. That would create sympathy. Instead, they broke her through her maternal identity. The night before her execution, Perpetua wrote her final entry. She describes a vision of climbing a bronze ladder covered with swords to reach heaven. Then she writes, "I woke and understood that I would fight not with wild beasts but with the devil himself." She was wrong. She would fight something worse than the devil. Rome's humiliation machine, perfected over centuries, designed to tear people apart before crowds. Gaul, modern-day France, 52 BC, Vercingetorix. His name meant Great King of Warriors, 30 years old, chief of the Arverni tribe. The man who accomplished the impossible, uniting dozens of Gallic tribes against Rome. For the first time in decades, Rome faced a unified enemy in Gaul. Vercingetorix wasn't just brave, he was brilliant. Guerrilla tactics, scorched earth strategy. He studied Roman methods and used them against Julius Caesar himself. He was nearly winning. At the Battle of Gergovia, he inflicted one of Caesar's heaviest defeats. For a moment, Gallic independence seemed possible. Then came Alesia. Caesar besieged Vercingetorix's army. Vercingetorix besieged Caesar. 2 rings of siege lines. Winner takes all. When starvation began, Vercingetorix did something extraordinary. He walked out of the fortress alone, in full ceremonial armor, and surrendered to Caesar to save his people. Caesar's own words tell this. The Gallic leader entered the Roman camp wearing his finest armor, decorating his horse, and rode around the platform where I sat. Then he removed his armor, sat at my feet, and remained motionless until handed over to the guards. Caesar promised Vercingetorix's warriors mercy if their king surrendered. The warriors were released. Vercingetorix was not. Caesar kept him alive, not for negotiation, not for information, for something else. Because Caesar knew that one day he would return to Rome for a triumph parade, and a triumph needs the right accessory. Vercingetorix spent 6 years in Rome's Tullianum dungeon. Underground, in darkness, alone. Why did Caesar wait so long? The answer lies in Roman strategic thinking. Anticipation amplifies effect. For 6 years, Romans heard stories of the Gallic king chained beneath their city. His legend grew. His approaching humiliation became Rome's most anticipated spectacle. In 46 BC, Caesar finally planned his triumph. Vercingetorix would be at the center. Not quickly executed, not imprisoned forever. Despite 6 years in darkness, despite deliberate starvation to weaken him, he walks upright. Here's where Rome's sophistication emerges. They don't just parade him through the city once. They stop the procession at key points. At the Senate, where he can see Rome's power. At the Forum, where thousands can mock him up close. At Caesar's platform, standing as Caesar gives a speech about him, right in front of him. This man united Gaul against Rome. This man nearly defeated our legions. But now, he stands here, broken, because no one can resist Rome's fate. Vercingetorix is forced to listen to the celebration of his own defeat, forced to hear his people's liberation struggle described as rebellion, forced to remain silent as Caesar rewrites the stories. The parade reaches its final point. For most prisoners, this means returning to cells. For the triumph's chief captive, it means something else. He's taken to the Tullianum, the same dungeon where he spent 6 years. down stone steps into the underground chamber. The Tullianum isn't for imprisonment, it's an execution chamber, strangulation, slow, by hand. While crowds above celebrate Caesar's victory at the Temple of Jupiter, Roman protocol requires the triumph's chief captive to die during the celebration feast. So, as Caesar celebrates his victory, Vercingetorix dies in darkness. Death timed to coincide with the evening's entertainment. No funeral, no monument, no record of how his body was disposed. The king who united Gaul dies as if he were Rome's spoils of war. Used, displayed, discarded. If stories like these are left to die in forgotten archives, history itself becomes the next victim. These weren't nameless victims. They were people, subscribed to keep their memories alive, because what Rome did to them must never remain in silence. Perpetua's diary became one of Christianity's most powerful early texts. Augustine of Hippo quoted it. Medieval artists painted it. But what we often forget, her baby. Roman sources don't record what happened to him. A nursing infant whose mother chose faith over his life. Did he survive? Was he raised knowing his mother chose death? Did he grow up Christian, inspired by her sacrifice? Or did he curse her name? We don't know, and this absence, this silence, is its own type of horror. But Perpetua's death didn't stop Christianity. It accelerated it. Within a century, Christianity became Rome's state religion. The arena where she died was converted into a church. The empire that killed her adopted her faith. Rome's humiliation machine had an unexpected consequence. It created martyrs, and martyrs are more dangerous than rebels. Vercingetorix was erased from Roman records after his execution, his name unspoken, no monuments, no legacy. This was Rome's purpose, complete erasure. For 1,800 years he was a footnote, a defeated enemy, a warning to others. Then, in the 1800s, France was occupied by foreign powers. Historians rediscovered Vercingetorix's story. Suddenly he wasn't a defeated rebel. He was a symbol, the man who united France against invaders. Napoleon III erected a massive statue of Vercingetorix at Alesia, where he surrendered. The inscription reads, "United Gaul, forming one nation animated by a common spirit, can defy the universe." Rome tried to erase him. Instead, they created a legend that outlived their empire. But the real man, that man who walked out at Alesia to save his warriors, died in darkness, strangled in a hole. His death choreographed to entertain Roman elites. No subsequent glory changes that. These weren't isolated incidents. This was policy, repeated thousands of times over 6 centuries. An estimated 50,000 individuals subjected to systematic public humiliation. Millions of witnesses conditioned to see humiliation as entertainment. Infrastructure that outlasted the empire itself. Amphitheaters still standing today. How do you reconcile Rome's gifts, law, architecture, engineering, literature, with what they did to human dignity? You can't. You hold both truths. Rome was both brilliant and brutal. They laid the foundations of Western civilization and perfected the mechanics of social humiliation. Both are true. That's what's so disturbing about it. Here's what should disturb us. Rome's methods didn't disappear. They evolved. Medieval public executions, same logic, different theology. Colonial powers turned triumphs into victory parades. The modern age moved public shaming from streets to screens. Rome understood something we're still grappling with. Public humiliation is more effective than private punishment. The presence of witnesses doesn't just add to the pain. It multiplies it exponentially. Contemporary trauma psychology confirms what Rome knew 2,000 years ago. Public humiliation creates deeper trauma than physical pain. Forced performance increases psychological damage through complicity. Witness participation creates collective guilt that reinforces social control. Rome didn't invent cruelty, they systematized it. They turned humiliation into infrastructure. They made shame efficient. Perpetua entered that arena carrying 2 unbearable burdens, her love for her son, and her love for her faith. Rome forced her to choose, and she chose, knowing the cost. Was she brave? Yes. Was she right? That's not for me to judge. But she was human, torn between two loves, both real, both demanding everything. Vercingetorix surrendered himself to save his warriors. Noble? Absolutely. But to Rome it didn't matter. They didn't see nobility. They saw an accessory for Caesar's career advancement, 6 years waiting for humiliation, then strangled in darkness. He became a symbol for later generations. But the man himself, he just wanted his people to be free. Perpetua and Vercingetorix are remembered because their stories survived. But think of the others. The slaves on the Appian Way, prisoners in forgotten triumphs, people condemned to wild beasts, their names never recorded. They died without monuments, without stories. Their humiliation served its purpose. Then they were forgotten. And this deliberate erasure is perhaps Rome's most merciless act. You might be thinking, this is ancient history. We're more civilized now. Are we? We've replaced amphitheaters with algorithms, but the mechanism is the same. Public shaming as entertainment, as control, as correction. We don't chain people in streets anymore. We just make their worst moments viral. We don't parade prisoners through cities. We just livestream arrests. We don't force people into arenas. We just create platforms where humiliation monetizes. Rome had 400 amphitheaters. We have billions of screens. Rome reached millions. We reach billions. Technology changed. Psychology didn't. So what do we do with this? We remember. Not to glorify suffering, but to acknowledge it. We remember Perpetua guiding the sword to her own throat. We remember Vercingetorix walking upright after 6 years in darkness. We remember that humiliation systems don't need monsters to function, just ordinary people conditioned to accept humiliation as normal. Rome fell 1,500 years ago, but the crosses on the Appian Way stood as warnings for decades. Amphitheaters still stand as monuments, and the names: Perpetua, Vercingetorix, and thousands of others. They survive in text fragments, in carved stones, in buried documents. They endure. Not the humiliation Rome gave them, but their humanity. Despite everything designed to destroy it, a spark of dignity survived long enough to be written, transmitted, remembered. And maybe that's the point. Rome had unlimited power, sophisticated systems, centuries of mastery, but they couldn't completely erase the people they tried to break because someone wrote. Someone preserved the stories. Someone didn't allow the erasure to be complete. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it, and death is a release from sense impressions." Rome tried to control even death itself, to make it public, humiliating, instructive. But they couldn't control memory. That belonged to anyone who chose to remember. You've witnessed one of history's darkest truths, not ancient knowledge. A mirror showing what happens when humiliation becomes policy, when cruelty becomes culture, when systems strip humanity in the name of order. If you believe memory deserves preservation, if you believe these names deserve to echo one moment longer, subscribe to Sable Historians. We tell stories that must never be forgotten, especially the ones that disturb us. Perpetua, 22 years old, mother. Vercingetorix, 30 years old, king. And 6,000 slaves will never know. By remembering them, you've done something the empire couldn't do for centuries. You've given them back their humanity, even if just for these few minutes.